Ooh, it's the Jason Jones.
That's right, Jason Jones, Professor Jones.
Professor Jones.
Here on D-Lo and KC of The Athletic. Jay, what's up, man? First of all, man, come on, man. While you're here, I got to do it. You got to get air horns, man. Explain to us a little bit more about what's going on with you and your role at Cal Berkeley now, man.
Oh, I hope my computer's acting right. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, yeah, my computer's slow over here today, but yeah, I'm teaching a mini course this semester in sports writing and the intersection of sports and culture, politics, all that fun stuff, poisoning the young minds of young journalists, going to remind them to get a real job and get out this business. Go make some money. Don't do this to yourself.
Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself.
Don't. You'll have that moment where you're standing there going, you know what? I went to college all this time to stand here and wait for somebody who's 19 to tell me to go somewhere.
You know what? The funny thing about that, I remember, I think it was Jamel Hill was talking about this, and you guys, I'm sure, can attest to this. Like when you're growing up and you're getting into it, you're like, man, I get to go to all the games and I get to see all these games and stuff like that. And you think about all the great games that you go to and that you have to go to. You never think about Kings Rockets on an NFL wildcard Sunday at 3:00 that you have to go to.
Yeah, they don't tell you about that part. I think the moment that hit me the most was after DeMarcus got traded. The Kings had a New Orleans, Minnesota back-to-back. And in case you didn't know, there aren't a lot of flights that get you a direct from New Orleans to Minnesota. And I'm sitting at the layover going, why am I doing this to myself for a game that nobody cares about?
I would totally agree. Yeah, I mean, and sitting there watching games, at a certain point, it's not a good thing. I mean, like, we've watched so many bad games. Jason and I have had like many years of pain and anguish sitting there watching a team that always thinks for some reason that they're better than the team they're going up against. And like, I don't even know what to say. Like, how many games, like, I haven't done my win-loss record, but Jason, yours and I are very similar just because of the years that we covered.
Yeah, mine's kind of stopped now. I kind of got to, but
mine hasn't, Jason.
If I took a shot every time someone said we underestimated our opponent, and it was funny one year, I think it was Isaiah Thomas said it, and I didn't know I was on camera, and I like made a face, and someone texted me, was like, "You can't make that face." I was like, "What?" I was like, and me and IT were cool, so I was like, no disrespect, but look at your record. How do you guys ever go into a game saying, you know what, we got this one, and then the other team is going, we're going to Sacramento on this trip. We got this one. We might lose every other game in California. We can get Sacramento.
And what did we got more from the post game playbook the other day. What did Buddy say? He said something to the effect of, "Yeah, we just got to make sure we come out and we're ready to play," or something like that. I said, What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Ready to play is an underrated skill in the NBA.
Can it be like that sometimes?
Yeah. Facts. I think as George Carl once said that effort and he said energy is a skill. And I was like, come on, George. And then the more I learned him, like, he's right. It's like there's a lot of guys in this league who don't play hard and give that effort every game. A lot of guys who just kind of, and that's why certain guys stand out. Like, wow, he's just going, he's giving his full effort the entire game.
TJ McConnell.
Because a lot of guys post.
TJ McConnell in the house. Hell, Patrick Beverly. Like that's literally what Patrick Beverly. Like I remember when people were talking about Davion Mitchell is going to be like Patrick Beverly, and no disrespect to Pat Bev, I'm like, Davion is way more skilled than Pat Bev. Pat Bev just works hard. Like that's really what it comes down to. And he's made $15-20 million because he
more than that. He's made more than that by being a nuisance.
Yeah, the Kings tried to give him a 3-year, $39 million contract, I think.
So he wouldn't take their money, so Corey Joseph had to take it.
Facts. It'd be like that sometimes, Jason.
I haven't heard that on a regular basis in a while. So every time I watch a presser now, I just crack up at some of the stuff. Like I'm just like, this is. I'm like, it's a much funnier when you're not close to it. I'm like, this is hilarious.
Jason Jones of The Athletic. Excuse me, Professor Jason Jones.
I'm not no, don't call me professor.
You
no.
call him Dr. Jones, doll. Short round.
On D-Lo and KC, you're going to be Professor Jones or Dr. Jones, whatever. That's what's going to be on here. All right.
Depending on what we're talking about, I may agree with that.
Here on D-Lo and KC, I'm Kenny Caraway, James Ham filling in for Damien. Damien will be back tomorrow. So
Damien gonna be back tomorrow when AEW's filming tomorrow. I mean,
see, there you go. What's his name? Corey Starks?
Ricky Starks, yeah. I've still never seen Ricky Starks and Damian Barling in the same place. So until proven otherwise, I'm going to assume that he's got that FTW title. He's like at an autograph signing right now. He ain't fooling me.
He does. I wasn't familiar with Ricky Starks until our buddy across the street started making the comparisons. I was like, damn, he does kind of look like Ricky Starks.
And Jason knows this. I have no idea who you guys are talking about.
No clue.
Don't worry.
As far as for James earlier, he had no clue where the beat was coming from. I asked him who wrote the song Got Time Today. Gave him multiple choice. He said Lil Baby. It was wrong. It was Moneybagg Yo. He said, I don't know who either one of them is. He tried, though. He put in the effort. That's what I appreciate from my guy.
Zach Randolph put me on the Moneybagg Yo. That's his guy.
Moneybagg had a big 2021.
Zach told me about him like in 2016, like my guy, Moneybagg Yo. I was like, he's like, for real, my guy. Watch out for him. So Zach amongst being one of the guys who was almost my age on the Kings, that's what. Zach, I thank him for that contribution to my music playlist.
Shout out to Zebo. But I talked earlier because there was a report earlier by your teammate, your comrade, Sam Amick, talking about how the Kings' 1 and 2 options is going after Ben Simmons. That doesn't work. They want to go after Sabonis. And I said, Jason, this is just me. I'm not in the game, as in depth and as long as you guys have been, but I likened it to boxing. I'm a big boxing guy, and in boxing, when they talk about fights happening in the media, 9 times out of 10 they don't happen because they try to negotiate through the media, and it's like it doesn't work. The ones that happen are the ones that kind of pop up, like, oh, I didn't know that fight was going to happen. Like, okay, let's go. And I got that kind of vibe with this whole talk about they didn't say this, it was a source or whatever, but Simmons is the first option, Sabonis is the second. I was like, damn, we ain't gonna get either one of them. do you gotta feel that way about when you hear these trade rumors out there a lot of times during trade season? I know it's different than boxing negotiations, but how do you feel about that kind of being out there reportedly that 1 and 2 is Simmons and Sabonis?
I'm like Bernie Mac. I don't believe it till it happens. I don't believe blank till blank happens. Remember, I was literally writing a Kyle Kuzma is a King story this summer. I had done all the scenarios of why Kyle Kuzma was going to work, was going to fit, and where his, so I don't believe anything until it happens. And we're less than a month out. So you're going to hear, because the Kings are, below 500, they've got a guy on a max deal who's young. You've got some other contracts like Harrison's, and things like that. The Kings are going to come up repeatedly. And also because Monty wants, he's going to be, he's from that Houston, Morey, hinky tree. They're going to throw a million things against the wall.
Yeah.
And if one sticks, one stuck. But, you're going to hear a lot about the Kings right now. And I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, somebody just, somebody text me when it actually happens, because I just think you're going to hear, I think they'll probably do something, but it'll probably be a move that maybe you hear mentioned even like last year, you might have heard a little about DeLon Wright, but it wasn't like DeLon Wright was like, every day, 20 times a day, DeLon Wright. You heard about it. So it'd be a guy like, a name like that, but they're going to get tied to Ben Simmons until something happens with Ben.
Jason, in all your years covering this team, what is the biggest rumor, the biggest potential trade that never happened? Can you think of any?
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think. I've no. Actually, I don't know if it was a trade, but for it wasn't a big one. But I swore Vlade was going to get Otto Porter to Sacramento by hook or crook. I actually talked to Otto about that. He was like, "Yeah, they were on me. Yeah, you know." Talked so long ago about that. I swore I didn't know how it was going to happen because every team has a couple of guys they really like, and it's like if I can get a hold of that guy's going to be key to us. And for a while, for the Kings, it was Otto Porter. But I mean, you hear so that's probably that's not even a big one though, because the big names. I can't recall when I was like, "That's going to happen," then it didn't. Yeah, it's usually the biggest one was would they really trade DeMarcus? And I'd heard often, now you think about it, you know what? Maybe it's that Laker deal in 2015 that didn't happen. Was it 15 for the second overall pick?
Yeah,
What was
That
that?
was probably that. And the thing is, from what I heard back then, that would have ended up being Porzingis.
Oh wow.
And
Who was here at that time? Was it just built around Porzingis? Is that what it was?
It would have been DeMarcus to the Lakers.
Yeah, and Porzingis would have been the center. So was IT still here then, or who was here?
No, he wasn't because George was the coach. That's been they drafted Willie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Who just lost his job because Sacramento's own Marquise Chris came in there and I mean, presumably outworked Willie Cauley-Stein. I know that's a shocking idea, but
Willie hasn't been there since early November. There's something went on there. He's been on a personal leave since I think it's right around like November 10th.
Oh, okay,
I'm not sure what happened there.
I can't remember the last time I saw him play. I just assumed he was out the rotation. I mean,
yeah I know. You talked about the Lakers deal. I remember that Cousins was on vacation in Mexico, and they called him and asked him if he wanted the deal. They told him they would give him, like, if he wanted to go, they would trade him, and if he didn't want to go, then they would keep him. And the story I was told is he got really angry and threw his phone in the pool. And then he told his right hand man, tell him I want to stay in Sac and go get me another phone.
Big ups to DeMarcus.
The funny thing about that is
they got all the way to that. No, that's they were like, "Yo, we got the deal. It's going to happen if you want it to happen," and he said no.
He decided.
The funny about that story is this: why would you ask him? Like, why would you even ask? Because you certainly didn't ask him at the All-Star game. Hey, you want to get traded today?
Well, because in Sacramento, Jason, you can never have enough voices in the room.
I was like, that whole DeMarcus period is just really funny and weird because for all the stuff he got blamed for, and like, well, we don't, one of my favorite ones was when they drafted Thomas Robinson. Part of the reason they did was because they said we want to take a big, because I mean that was the year where they could have had Damian Lillard, they could have had they could have took Harrison in that spot, or they could have took Andre Drummond. And the reason they didn't take Drummond was because they didn't want to hurt DeMarcus's feelings. And it was weird because no one ever asked DeMarcus then. That was Petrie, but still, it's just funny that all these stories always came out after the fact. DeMarcus didn't want IT in Sacramento. That's why they had to let him go. I'm like, if he's so bad, why are you asking him all these questions?
I wish they would have asked him if they should draft Yorgos Papagiannis.
Yeah, I was like,
hey, DeMarcus, should we draft Yorgos? And he would say, what
center? I mean, the stuff you should ask him, hey, would this bother you? No, they don't ask him that. They ask him stuff that doesn't. I mean, like you said, there's never enough voices in Sacramento, and then it's always the wrong voice getting the final say. And then you play the game of, well, everyone does this. That have we ever figured out who drafted Nick Stauskas, even though we have video of it?
Damn.
I don't know, but I think Elfrid Payton was an option.
Yeah.
I didn't want Elfrid. I remember that being an option. I didn't want Alford. I thought it came down to, by the way, we got Jason Jones, Professor Jason Jones here on The Athletic with D'Lo and KC, James Ham filling in for Damien. I thought that came down to Stauskas, Gary Harris, and who was my guy in Kentucky, the left-hander that people were really on. And he didn't do much of anything in the league. I think he ended up going to Boston. But
I have no idea you're talking about. I know you're talking. I can't think of his name either.
But I thought it was those three. And because I never shy away from this. I was dead wrong. I wanted Stauskas. I'm a Michigan guy. I saw every game of his collegiate career, and I thought the kid could play. I thought he could ball. Now, could he defend and do some stuff on the NBA level? Maybe not. But I looked at him being, ironically, the guy who was on there, on that team that I thought he could be was Duncan Robinson. Like, I thought what Duncan Robinson has turned into in the NBA, I thought worst case scenario, that's what Nick Stauskas would be. And boy, was I wrong.
You were wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong, but hey, a lot of us have been wrong. I mean, there's been a lot of wrong. But I can go back draft by draft and be like, oh, I like that guy. I like, it'll never top the fact that I was like, they had to take Kawhi Leonard, and they're like, we can't take Kawhi Leonard. He can't shoot. And I was like, he can defend. He can I think he can do everything else. And what I loved about Kawhi at San Diego State was, for a guy who couldn't shoot, he sure had a hell of an impact on games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at that point, you had a bunch of guys who wanted to shoot. I'm like, you can just plug him in, and maybe he doesn't need to take 20 shots. He already had guys fighting for shots. Nah. And then you take and then you take Jimmer. And it's funny about Jimmer. On TV, I thought he was like 6'4". And then I met him, and I was taller than him. And I said, oh, God, this is not going to work. I'm like, this is not going to work. And we could spend probably about 3 years just going over all the what were you guys thinking moves and going, we'll probably have another one coming up at, at the trade deadline, whatever they do. If it's nothing, there will be anarchy. If it's something, there will be anarchy. Either way, there will be anarchy.
Yeah.
Always too high, always too low.
The guy was James Young out of Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other guy.
That was a historically bad draft. It wasn't a good draft.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a bad draft. And even, if it's a bad draft, the Kings are going to take the wrong person anyway still. So, their bad pick is going to be even worse usually.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you brought up Marquise Chris. I think the Kings traded that pick. It was number 9 to move down to 13. And then they got number 28 where they drafted Scal, and they got Bogdan Bogdanovic in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
And then Domantas Sabonis went number 12. Like, all you had to do is just draft Sabonis, and then you would have been all right.
You could have took DeJounte Murray later in the first round, and took the Malachi Richardson and Scal.
Yep.
And think about Scal. I'm like, how many 6'10" guys did you really need on that team? That's when but that did give us the great moment of the Dave Yeager FU lineup of all centers in the preseason.
Which is basically the Cleveland Cavaliers at this point.
But they got way better players with their FU lineup.
They do. You remember, that reminds me of the game where Paul Westphal, just to prove people wrong, started Jason Thompson at the 3.
Oh,
yeah, because everyone thought he could play the 3. It's like,
who was everyone?
Somebody said it. Someone said it somewhere, and like,
that was
hey,
the easiest. Where did Rudy Gay go for like 38, 40? That's the easiest 38, 40 points of his life. Yeah. I felt so bad for JT because that wasn't his fault. He's trying his best, but he had no business out there guarding Rudy Gay. And this is young, springy Rudy Gay.
Yeah.
This is young, going to the rack Rudy, and like poor JT's out there. I'm like, Paul, don't do this to this kid ever. This ain't fair. This ain't right. We had a lot of that in Sacramento. A lot of coaches saying, okay, you want to see this? I'm going to let you see it.
Dave Yeager playing all the rookies that year. I remember they got smacked by the Wizards that game. Got smacked.
Shout out to Coach Dave, who gave us so many memorable moments.
Get well to him, Coach Dave Yeager.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kings are a mess. We need to get off them for a second. I want to ask you an NBA in general question before I get to your Raiders.
Okay.
I've heard a couple of things for a little while. Shout out to my guy E Hicks, James Harden wanting to be out of Brooklyn, and I think there was another report this week about that. Have either one of you guys heard that he's not long for Brooklyn? Like, it may not happen this year, but he's not going to be there for a while.
What do you got on that, Jay?
I honestly haven't heard anything, but I honestly haven't been really checking on that situation. To me, the most intriguing thing in that situation is Kyrie being a part-time player.
Yeah. And Kyrie said ain't nothing changing.
Kyrie was like, you're going to pay me this money, and I'm still only going to play on the road. And I'm just waiting for them to get to the playoffs, and they have to play a critical game at home, and he can't play.
Yeah, I think
that would be such a Kyrie way to end the season, you know. But who knows? Remember the last couple of, whether it was in Boston, even that one year they made the playoffs in the bubble in Brooklyn. They played better when Kyrie was gone. They might just ask Kyrie at some point, you know what? Just set out the road games too. Patty Mills is cooking. We don't need you messing this up by deciding you want to play in Game 4.
Somebody brought up the possibility of them playing the Raptors in the playoffs. They'll never play.
I would just love the comedy of that. Yeah, I would just die of laughter. But I mean, with James, where's he gonna go? I mean, at this point, the Lakers can't take any more LA guys.
Well, James Ham brought up the possibility of Philly maybe holding off on Ben Simmons as a possible asset to eventually get James Harden.
I could, I mean, they were, Daryl's down there, and they were, big on James before he ended up in Brooklyn. So, who knows? I mean, there's a bunch of contracts I swore would never get traded that have been traded more than once. I thought John Wall could never get traded. I thought Russell Westbrook could never get traded. He's been traded like 3 times. So anything can happen. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the theater, and for the first time, most of my adult life, not be pulling my hair out at the trade deadline. Well, I don't have any hair to pull out anymore now, but
I have magically kept mine. I don't know how.
You didn't have enough road. You didn't have enough of those terrible road games. You needed to be in Madison Square Garden and watch a 63-18 run. I saw that it was 63-18.
Yeah,
and it was amazing. I mean, it was so bad, it was amazing.
What was the one against the Mavs the other day, James? Like a couple weeks ago, wasn't that 28-2? What was that?
Yeah, 24-2, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like low on the totem pole for some of their stuff. I mean, they lost a game by like 50. They lost a game by like 50. And they've had some just shellackings.
I know Alvin Gentry said that was the worst performance he'd seen in 34 years in a game this year. And then we asked Tyrese about it, and he goes, man, we lost by 46 last season. Like, I don't think that was the worst.
Yeah. My man Alvin hasn't watched a lot of Kings games, I mean, the Thunder lost by like 75 or something ridiculous this season.
Yeah.
It's tough. Jay, what about your Raiders, man? What is happening with your Raiders? Are they just blowing the whole thing up? And could you believe that play?
I could. The last one.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't believe Derek spiked it. I'm like, just try to throw it up, But I got over that in the game. What I couldn't believe in that last play was, it looked like a one-man route. Like they had They didn't have guys going to the end. They had one. Like that whole play was designed for Zay Jones. It was like
we were discussing this.
I was like, I mean, I get people like to kill Derek. I'm like, why not send the 6'6" tight end who's an all-pro type player toward the end zone? Why is he running across the field? Like, so then he can, even if Derek goes there, they're probably going to swarm him.
Right.
I was, then the play before that, my man Renfro falls down on what would have been a touchdown. I mean, I'm just, but considering they were 6-7 and I thought they were doomed, The fact they got there, with an interim coach, your number one deep threat, in jail, you lose your coach because he gets crazy in his email. A lot went down with that team. Your first round pick from a year ago wants to go on IG and show off his weapons.
Oh my God.
A lot went on with them, but I think even if they hadn't moved away from John during the year, Mayock was gone. Someone was taking the blame for guys like Leatherwood and Arnett and Cleveland Farrell. And if the Raiders could draft from the 4th round on, they might be okay. Just give them a bye in the first 3 rounds, they might be okay. Because some of these picks are just, poor Leatherwood.
So let me ask you this: do you think Derek Carr survives the new regime, or are they just going to get him out the paint and start all the way new? I don't think they should. I think Derek Carr should come back. But
I think Derek Carr stays. I think he stays. Mm-hmm. Because the thing is, I know a lot of Raider fans are like, well, he's not Aaron Rodgers, he's not Tom Brady. Well, no one else is. No, there's only one Mahomes. There's only a few guys at that level. Yeah. And if you're going to get Derek Carr out, get rid of him, you got to upgrade it. Don't pull a Minnesota and then you get rid of your quarterback and bring in a Kirk Cousins and then you're really no better. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. So I think they just really got to fix the other parts around them. That right side of the line was atrocious most of the year. I told someone they pretty much had a starting left tackle and 4 backups. Mm. You don't have a real outside threat at wide receiver. Your corners outside of Hayward were bad. You don't have an impact, run guy, D tackle, linebackers overall below average. Probably, they got a lot of stuff to work on because they've drafted so poorly. They don't have a lot of depth. Mm. But I don't think you fix that by getting rid of the quarterback. I think they got some other things to do. So you figure out who your coach, first got to figure out your GM and your coach. I was a guy who was dead set on the interim guy got to go, but you got to give Rich, give him a real look. But what I do want them to do is have an actual search as well. Mm. Just don't appoint a guy. And so far, that seems to be the plan. They're going to have a real search. Mm. They're going to have one of those sham searches, hopefully, where it's like, okay, we got our guy, but let's interview our Rooney guy, and then announce a candidate, then announce the coach the next day. So go through a real search, get a GM back in there. I think they set themselves back when they brought in John. And let John take over, player personnel, because as we should have learned from Tampa, that's not John Gruden's calling. Mm-hmm. He might sound cool on TV, but you don't want him picking your players. No. That's how you get Alex Leatherwood, whose name sounds really cool.
Leatherwood again for the 5th time today.
I'm sorry. I probably should leave. Alex, maybe he'll get better, but my God, one of those holes, the guy was already on the ground and you grab him anyway. They had 2 linemen do that. The guy's on his knees and you just grab him. You can't make the play. You've already knocked him down. What are you doing? Finish the block. Don't grab him. And poor Leatherwood, his technique. God, they call it swinging gait. They always tell you, the lineman, don't drop your outside leg. He just, here you go. Here's Derek Carr. Go hit him. But overall, like I said, I can't complain about this season. All the stuff they went through to be 6-7 and then to go off and, run off 4 straight wins, including beating at that time. Indy was hot when they beat them, So
this embarrassment.
Oh, well, the next week, the Raiders broke their spirit. The Raiders broke them. Wow. They couldn't even, do anything, like I said, hey, keep Derek Carr. What you gonna do? Go get Carson Wentz? Do you want to do that? No. I'm gonna ride with Derek. I think the one year he had 2 legit wide receivers. He was an MVP candidate till he broke his ankle or broke his foot. So I'm optimistic about their future if they can get some depth.
Well, Jason, I know the Raiders might be out now, but I know you're shifting all your gear and your energy towards the Niners, that gritty, little gutsy Niners team, and you want to see them go into Green Bay and shock the world.
No, I don't. See, because
out in South Africa, they don't believe the Niners can get it done. Out in somewhere in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, we're going to shock the world, not just the world.
I believe they can get it done You know, and like I said on Sunday, if I didn't know Gus Armstead, I would really be all. It's hard for me to. I like Gus. I'm like I don't want. And I've met Eric when he was like really literally little Eric. So I don't want to see him do bad or anything per se, but it's like Niner fans.
What?
I can't stand y'all.
Why?
The tragedy of the game on Sunday was that the Cowboy fan base and Niner fan base couldn't go away. We got rid of hearing "We Them Boys," but I got still hear "Bang Bang." This has got to be the most the worst slogan of any team in the NFL. Bang Bang Niner. Did my 7-year-old make that? That's terrible. Go back to saying "Quest for Six." I thought that was corny, but at least it okay, I get it. Bang bang. Is Cactus Jack gonna be the new, on the sideline of this game? But now you're forcing me to, before it wasn't as bad to, pull for my Cal guy Aaron Rodgers. Now I'm like, I gotta pull for Joe Rogan's patient to do the Lord's work and end this. I can't have another week of this. I need Aaron, Dr. Aaron to do something and finally beat the Niners in a playoff game. I mean, he's got this whole I'll beat you in the regular season and get destroyed in the playoffs by the Niners. I need him to fix that because I can't have you running around saying bang bang all the time. I can't hear any more grown men yelling bang bang at me.
You never hear me say bang bang.
Well, thankfully, you know what it is?
But I do say Niner gang.
Whatever. I thought you guys were faithfuls at first. Now you're a gang. You guys don't know what you are.
I never really liked faithful.
It's like when the Warrior fans became Dub Nation. I've been up here since '96. There was no Dub Nation. They didn't even call themselves Dubs. All of a sudden, they're the Dub Nation. No, you're not. You're Warrior fans. There's only like 4 or 5 teams that can go around claiming to have a nation.
Well, I'm just glad we get Sacramento proud for the Sacramento Kings.
Oh yeah, Sacramento.
Yeah, no one's feeling Sacramento proud, even though Saturday Night Live did that was beautiful.
To hell with them.
You gonna drop that Kanye line on Saturday Night Live?
Hell with them. Professor Jones, it's always a good time to talk to you, man. I appreciate you coming through. And once again, for real, more air horns. Congratulations. That's super dope.
Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Good seeing you, man.
All right, good seeing you. Take care.